Hey guys, how you doing? It's Saturday night. That's kind of a weird time for me to be streaming, but yeah, we're good. But my voice seems to be doing pretty good right now. A lot better than I think yesterday morning. I did one, coughed my way through most of it. So I thought, what the heck? Let's give it a shot and see what happens. Long time ago, years ago. So the title for this one is, well, geez, gotta move my mic. Is following the breadcrumbs to manifesting desire. So following the breadcrumbs. I Hmm. I never know whether it's an analogy maybe or something like that. But anyway, the story of how long does it take to make ice? And I haven't told the story for quite a while, but some of you at the earlier workshops would remember this. But it really sets a really powerful foundation for the teaching topic in this live. So it's a hot summer day, and Joe he wants a nice cold glass of lemonade. So he's got lemonade, but he doesn't have ice. And so I don't know how to make ice. So his neighbor Pete, he knows Pete has some really good ice, and so he figures, well, I'll just go over and see how Pete makes ice. And okay, so he goes over and so how do you make ice? And Pete says, well, okay, you get the tray, you put the water in the tray, you put the tray in the freezer, and that's how you get ice. Oh, okay, cool, okay, all right. So Joe, forgot his name. Joe, he goes back home and he says, okay, so I got this. So he takes the tray, an ice cube tray, puts water in the tray. He puts in the tray in the freezer, right? He closes the door and he opens the door and there's no ice, right? There's this tray with water in it, but there's no ice. So he goes, well, wonder what I'm doing wrong. So he says, well, maybe I've got the wrong tray. So he goes out and he buys another ice cube tray. So he takes the ice cube tray, the new one, puts water in the ice cube tray, puts the ice cube tray into the freezer, closes the door, opens the door, still no ice. Well, I don't know what I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, I don't know, water. I guess maybe I don't know, got the wrong water or something. So he goes and he buys some bottled water, some really expensive bottled water. So he puts this expensive bottled water into the ice cube tray, puts the ice cube tray into the freezer, closes the door, opens the door. No ice. Well, I don't know. I am doing everything right. Why is it not working? Right? I'm doing and taking all the right physical steps. Why isn't it working? So he says, I don't know. I'm going to go over and, is it Pete? I had to talk to Pete. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong. So he says, Pete, I want some ice and I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing, but it's not working. So Pete says, okay, well, tell me what you do. Well, and I went to two of them. I got these ice cube trays. Good. And I put water in the ice cube trays. Well, good. Okay. And I put the trays in the freezer. Well, it sounds like you're doing everything right. He says, okay, it's a dumb question. He says, but the fridge is plugged in, right? And Joe says, well, yeah, I mean, I'm not that dumb. The fridge is plugged in. It's cold in there. The fridge is plugged in. Geez, I don't know. Well, how long do you leave the ice tray in there with the water? And Joe goes, what? And Peter says, well, how long do you leave the ice cube tray with the water in the freezer? And Joe goes, what? And Peter says, oh, Lord. You have to leave it in the freezer for a period of time. And that's what creates ice. Oh. Okay. Okay. So Joe goes home, puts water in the tray, same tray, puts water in the tray, same water, puts it into the freezer, same freezer, closes, excuse me, a little bit, closes the door and waits. And he waits and he waits and he waits. And he looks in the door. Oh, you can see a little bit of skiff of ice on top of the water in the tray. Oh, great, it's working. So he closes the door and he waits and checks. But he leaves the door closed for a while, and he checks quick and then closes the door. And then the one time he opens the door and there's ice. Now, I mean, this was a dumb story because you all knew what he was doing wrong right from the beginning. But, you know, we do the very same thing an awful lot. And it's maybe not with ice, but it's with manifesting. Now, the first thing to remember is the tray, the water, everything Joe did not make ice. Joe took the right steps. But what created the ice? The ice was the environment that all those physical steps resided in. And then through a period of time, the environment produced the outcome. You see, what we do so often, trust me, I do it, is we're just like Joe. We're taking the water, we're putting it in the tray, we're putting it in the freezer, but we're not maintaining the environment that produces the effect. Okay, so see, that's the thing. You could be doing all the right steps, but if that environment isn't conducive to the outcome, right? If he had the freezer, but it wasn't plugged in, if that environment isn't conducive to the outcome, he isn't going to get ice no matter what he does. See, this is why in step 2 of the manifesting process, right? The 5-step process, the first step is creating your perfect desire. Second step is living your desire on the inside, which is creating that environment, right? Third step is managing the obstacles. So the obstacles is, well, I got to make sure I got the right tray. I know, God, the water leaked out or whatever. The fourth step is taking inspired action. The fifth step is celebrating your victories. So the second step, living your desire on the inside. What are you doing? You're playing over, you're creating those pictures, those movies in your imagination, focusing on how they feel in your body, because the sensations in your body tell you whether the freezer is plugged in or not. This is really good, right? You can be doing all the right things, but if the freezer isn't plugged in, right, if that environment isn't there, and if it's not maintained, you're not going to get ice. And this is so often what we do. Believe me, I try and catch myself as much as I can, but yeah, I do the same thing. We do our meditation and we do our visualizing, we do our feeling as though the wish is fulfilled, and we do all that stuff. But so often then we get hung up on, okay, I need to do something now, right? I mean, I didn't meditate, did my visualizing. I need to do something now. So then we go out and we start doing all this stuff. And if we're doing all this stuff, so often what happens is we're neglecting our consistent, whatever that looks like, practice of living that desire on the inside, of feeling the feeling. Because as you maintain the environment, then the steps to take, that's your job, the physical steps to take are going to find you, which is my whole breadcrumbs thing. Your number one job is to create that environment, create that environment, to maintain that environment, and then be aware of those opportunities. Be aware of those just kind of crazy thoughts that come into your head, right? That's what we call inspired action, right? One of the characteristics of inspired actions is it may not make logical sense, but it just feels right. I just feel like doing this, right? Where does that, I just feel like doing this, even though it maybe doesn't make sense, and you do it, and then kabang, 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 there your desire is manifest. So where do those breadcrumbs that you follow come from? They come from creating and maintaining the environments. But so often, because we don't do that, two things happen. The first one is we spend an awful lot of physical effort that we really didn't need to. And the second one, or the second piece of the first one, is your desires are probably not going to manifest, at least not in the fullness and with the expediency that they could be. Way back when, wow. Could be, man, turn of the century, around the turn of the century, I did some website work for a real estate agent in town. And he was a businessman, successful businessman. He decided to go into real estate. And he would always tell me about all these deals, if you will, that he had, not just real estate deals, but all these different things he had on the go. And he would talk as though every one of them was going to be a resounding success. So there would be like 10 things. He would tell me, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this, and it's just going to be amazing, and this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So it's like every one of them was going to be productive and be successful. And then over the period of time, the 10 things, I'm just making up numbers, 2 of them would come to fruition, and the other 8 would just kind of disappear. Right. So I figured out after a while that even though he spoke as though all 10 of them were going to manifest, he knew they wouldn't. He knew, and again, I'm just kind of making up numbers, he knew that 8 wouldn't and 2 would. But the thing of it is, he didn't know which 2 would. So he had to follow all 10 of them, physically doing the work until 8 of them fell away, and then there was 2 left. Not to say that it doesn't work, but it's a hell of a lot of work. But you see, when you create and maintain that internal environment, what's the internal environment? Playing your desire, playing that over, right? And it's the end result, right? It's not the journey in this case, it's the destination that you're living, right? So you're feeling it on the inside, and you're just, right? This is what you're doing, right? That's creating that environment. And as you maintain that consistently, that environment, remember, you got the fridge door, you leave it, the freezer door, you leave it closed. Does not say you don't ever open it any times, but you predominantly leave it closed, right? As you do that, then the breadcrumbs, or this opportunity that you say, it just kind of happened, or the thought that comes into your mind, or a chance meeting, or all this kind of stuff, they're a result of you maintaining the environment. But so often we forget about that piece, and we go looking. Half the time we don't find it. And even if we do, again, we're doing, I'm just making up numbers, 10 times the effort that we need to be. And more, it's been my experience that relying on purely physical hard work and effort to somehow make this happen is becoming less and less effective. Why is it becoming less and less effective? Because there's this clarity. I'm just listening now. There's this clarity that's coming, and a lot of the static in this manifesting flow, we call it the creative flow, right? A lot of this static has been washed away in these last few years. Remember, I talked about the 50 shades. I will wrap with this. The 50 shades, because I'm having coffee, good for me. The 50 shades of gray, right, are kind of disappearing. It's now black, white. So there's a greater clarity, which means as we go through those steps, there's less resistance to those breadcrumbs finding us. And then you just follow the breadcrumb. Oh, okay, there I do that. Right. Now, just a side note here. You follow the next breadcrumb. But here's what happens so often. We follow the next breadcrumb, and then we go, okay, this is what we're doing. Okay, we're going this way. Okay, so I got it. I got this. Head down, butt up. I have to change his mic. Sorry, guys. Head down, butt up. We're going in that direction. Now we forget about the environment again, and now we're trying to make it happen. Right? This is where it's like a discipline, I guess, is to continue to make sure there's some things that things you have to do, but you do as little as possible. And maybe a better way to say that, do not neglect the visualizing, feeling of desire fulfilled, all that kind of being consistent with that. That's the first step. And actually in step 2, in the manifesting manual, which actually there's an old copy of it right here. Careful, these pages might fall out. There we are. In step 2, it talks about your first priority of the day is to get in that flow, right? Is to do the best you can to go over to the hashtag I want to feel good, or the hashtag I don't feel quite so rotten, right? I mean, some days we're wind beneath our wings and other days we're not, right? But whatever we can to get in that flow as much as we can. And then really go about your day and just be aware, because if and as you maintain the environment, you won't have to go looking for those opportunities, for those next steps. They're going to find you. Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I managed to do this whole thing without coughing. Hooray for me. Yesterday, sure, I can't talk though. Yesterday was a very different story. Share. We're all in this together. Yeah, I think that was good. This had been kind of floating around in my awareness since this morning, and I decided, well, I guess it needs to get out. So there you go. All right, guys. See you on the web.